Our video today is going to take us through multiplying and dividing of scientific notation. We will be bringing back some of the things that we did with the addition and subtraction part, so get ready for that. So if we go through steps, again, multiplying for this first part, one of the hints that I can give you is the powers do not have to be the same. So with adding and subtracting, we had to have them the same. Multiplying, we do not. So our first step is we're going to multiply the coefficient. Then we're going to combine the powers. Again, remembering that your integer combining rules apply. The last thing that you want to do on any of these problems is you want to make sure that you check the coefficient to make sure it's between 1 and 9. If you see that it is, well, then that's your answer. And if not, then we're going to go back and use the rule of Joule to make sure that it works in that sense. If we look at our first problem that we have, two scientific numbers multiplied together, what we're going to do first is we're going to take care of multiplying the 7 times the 1, which gives us 7. Remember, this is the coefficient. Second step is we're going to take our 3 and our 4, these are our powers, and we're going to add those together to give us a power of 7. So we combine this, and we say we have 7 times the 10 to the 7th power. Again, making sure that we check to see if that is in the right order of 1 to 9 to make it our answer. We take a look at our second problem. Again, two numbers we're going to multiply together are 5 times 5, which gives us 25. We're going to take our powers and add them, which gives us 13. When we put this together, though, we notice that our coefficient is not between 1 and 9, so we need to do the rule of Joule on this one. So if we bring that back, we're going to move our decimal one place to the left, which increases our power. So we end up with 2.5 times 10 to the 14th. For our next problem, you'll notice that we have negative powers. We're going to deal with those when we get to step B. So step A, we're going to take our 2.32 and we're going to multiply that by 4. That's going to come out to be 9.28. We're going to take our second step and we're going to still combine, or add in this case, our powers, but you notice that they have the same signs, so we are going to end up with a negative 11. So again, we put this together at 9.28 times 10 to the negative 11th. So we get over to our second problem that we have. Again, we have negative powers. So we're going to look at this, and again, in our first step, we're going to take our coefficients and multiply them. That's going to give us 16.2. Second step is we're going to add our powers. And in this case, we are going to add because they are the same number, so it gives us, or the same sign, so it gives us negative 5. But again, we notice that our coefficient isn't between 1 and 9. So again, we're going to have to bring in the rule of Joule, which means we're going to move our decimal one place to the left, which adds us to 1 on our power. So we have 1.62 times 10. Now I have different signs, so I'm really going to subtract. Larger number carries. So I really end up with 1.62 times 10 to the negative 4th. So if we go to division, again, the hint here is, again, we do not have to have the same powers. We are going to actually divide the coefficients. The second step is a little tricky. You got to be careful with this one. We're going to actually subtract, so we are going to use a minus sign. Still, integers combining rules apply. And our checking of our answer, if it's between 1 and 9, or if not, we will use the rule of Joule. So if we look at our first division problem, we are going to again divide our coefficients. That's going to be our first step. And then we're going to take care of subtracting our powers. So what this is going to look like is we're going to have 7.1 divided by 8.2, but we can't divide that way, so we have to move our decimals over one place each. So we end up with 82 divided into 71. Well, that doesn't go, so we're going to add a decimal 0 and bring this out. So when we end up with the dividing part of this, we're going to end up with 865 or 0.865. So with our powers, which is our step B, this was our step A, our division, we're going to now say 6, and I want you to say the word minus 1 and put the second number in parentheses. So make sure that you do say the word minus when you put this in your problem. So this will give us a power of 5. We have 0.865 times 10 to the 5th. We notice that our number is not in between 1 and 9, so we're going to have to use the rule of Joule again. So we're going to move our decimal 1 to the right, which means we drop our power by 1. So we end up with 8.65 times 10 to the 4th in this case. So if we take a look at our second problem, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to end up with 5.4 divided by 3.4. We're going to move our decimals over. And what this is end up going to give us is 34 dividing into 54. So we know that that goes in there once, and we're going to bring our decimal with a 0, and we're going to continue that. When you get done dividing that, it comes out to 1.588. And now we're going to deal with our powers. And again, this for step A is pretty straightforward. B is where it gets a little tricky. So when we say this, we have a -1 minus a +1. Well, now I have same sign, so I'm really going to add, which gives me a -2 for my power. So when I put this together, I'm going to have 1.588 times 10 to the -2 for my answer. Alright, if we look at a couple more, we are going to again take care of dividing 9 by 4. 4 goes into 9 twice, gives us 1, and we're going to end up with, through our division, of 2.25. We're going to take our powers. So this was our part A. Part B, we're going to take our powers, and here's where you got to be careful. We're going to have 3 and say the word minus -5, because right here gives us a positive. So we really have to the power of 8. So our final answer for this one is 2.25 times 10 to the 8th power, and yes, our coefficient is between 1 and 9. So if we take a look at our last one here, same situation. We're going to take 21 divided by 4. When you divide that through, you're going to end up with 5.25. So that gives us our starting point. And again, this is step A. Step B is going to be a -7 minus +2, which means we really have, get rid of that positive, we have the same sign, so we're going to add. So we really have a -9 for our power. So be careful with that in the division part. So going through some of the keys in what we're looking at for multiplying, we want to make sure we multiply the coefficient. We want to combine the powers. When we do that, remember the integer rules come into play. With our rule of Joule, that is for when the coefficient is not between 1 and 9. And for division, kind of the same thing, except we're going to divide the coefficients. We're going to subtract the powers. But when we get into that part, make sure you say the word minus when you put that subtraction sign in and not use the signs from the numbers. Make sure you keep those with. And again, you'll use the rule of Joule for that. And yes, again, your coefficients must be between 1 and 9. So please keep these things in mind as you go through this section with the multiplication and division. Again, especially with the division, make sure you say the word minus when you're dealing with the powers and put the second number in parentheses.